through storms, unshaken, unbowed. Through trials and verdicts, still standing proud. A titan in the tempest, against the raging crowd. He's got a vision for the future, gonna shout it aloud. Changing the wind, it's coming fast. A new foundation built to last. Cryptocurrency's the key, make the big switch. Power to the people, time to teach the rich. Legal battles can't hold it.
Welcome, everyone, to the Crazy Cryptonaut channel. I am Zester, and thank you guys so much for joining me on this Trump Day. A happy Trump Day to everyone out there. How is everyone doing? Good morning there, Mile High Trish and Kukla. Thank you guys so much. Mile High Trish, fun Kraken experience. Decided to open an account to play. Bought $10 in a crypto, and the next day I was gifted $10 in Bitcoin by Kraken. No idea why, but it was cool. That is very cool. Mile High Trish. And that is something that a lot of these different exchanges normally will kind of offer a starter bonus, trying to attract people to move to their exchange. You know, maybe they want to move Coinbase users over to Kraken or over to Gemini, and they regularly will hand out some free crypto for it. So that's awesome. Wow, Trish, you just doubled your investment compliments of Kraken. That's very cool. Hey, good morning there, Crazy Chester. Kukla, hey Zester, how are Tina, Tino, and Tommy doing? Well, they're doing very, very well. Actually, Tino was just in here and he heard me start talking, and I think I scared him off. Tino does. Tommy seems to love when the camera's on. Tino doesn't seem to love when the camera's on. Maybe I just talk too loud. Tino is very, very skittish. Hey, Gary7 coming in number 3 on the like button. Thank you so much, Gary. And how are you doing this morning? Also, Gary, I saw the email that was forwarded from Kukla. I would be happy for you to use anything you want. Although I would say the attachment was not there, so I didn't get to see the joke. I would love to see the joke, but Gary, I'm certain that it's absolutely fine. I would be honored. Gary, I was wanting to play poker, but my wife wanted me to do laundry, so I folded. I need to get the soundtrack going for that one. I need to get the soundtrack. Crazy Chester, what's a couple? I asked my mother. She said 2 or 3, which probably explains why the marriage collapsed. Oh, that one's good. That took a second. All right, Gary Green. First question, crypto question of the day. Gary Green, will tokenized stocks eventually replace shares in a company? Gary Green, so I guess this one's kind of it's not going to replace them entirely. The stocks are most likely still going to be held in terms of normal accounts, but the tokenized version is going to be what the vast majority of different investors want. And so I think in terms of the majority holders, Gary, it's going to essentially replace the antiquated idea of owning a share of a company, owning a stock. And so in that regard, I do think that it's going to change the idea of ownership of a company. And we are going to see mass tokenization of different stocks. And so I guess it's a yes and a no, Gary. I think that essentially we're going to start taking digitalized or tokenized versions of essentially everything, whether it's a stable coin, which is just a tokenized version of a dollar. That's what USDT or USDC is. It's a dollar, but it's tokenized. The dollar still exists. It's still a dollar. But we now are going to start interacting with the tokenized versions of these things far more often than we are going to be interacting with the non-tokenized version. And so, Gary, I suppose it's going to be the same thing here, where we're also going to see that happen in gold and silver, where gold and silver is going to be tokenized, and people are going to start interacting and using that tokenized version of gold and silver probably at a far higher rate than they're going to be utilizing a regular ounce of gold and silver, the actual physical ounce, because of the benefits of it being tokenized, the liquidity that it provides, the ability to leverage your wealth. You're going to start to see that occur. And so, Gary, I think we're going to see the same thing with stocks, where essentially it'll be the same idea. They'll still be there in their normal form, but the vast majority of investors are going to interact with them in their tokenized form. Same way with the US dollar or the euro or the pound. Same thing when you were to look at gold or silver. Same thing when you look at, say, US treasuries. We're going to see more people interacting with tokenized versions of US treasuries than actually the traditional. And I think that's where it's really going to be the difference. The OGs are not going away. The dollar's not going away. The stock itself is not going away. It's just going to be far, far easier and more beneficial to interact with the tokenized version of it. And so it's going to essentially push everyone, Gary, towards it. And some great examples of that would be the idea of staking or liquidity, or things of that nature, where they may be able to start actually earning a return on some of their different tokenized stocks. And in that regard, it's going to immediately push everyone there. Think about the offer from Coinbase right now. Coinbase offers 5% yearly for holding USDC just in your Coinbase account. It's not locked up. You can get it whenever you want. You can spend it at any moment, but they give you 5% yearly just for storing it on their exchange. Now, think about that. Is your dollar, can I just go out and get 5% on a US dollar and still be allowed to spend my US dollar whenever I want? Not in its normal version. I can't get that at the bank. I can't get that with the highest paying savings account in the country. I would not be able to achieve that type of return. And so naturally, this is going to push mass adoption of these tokenized versions, because the tokenized versions, well, it's going to pay a lot better to hold them. And so I think you can kind of view it the same way as your tokenized stocks, Gary. Why would I be holding US dollars when I could hold USDC, which is the US dollar, and I could be receiving 5% without taking any risks on my investment? The same thing is going to start to occur in regards to tokenized stocks and tokenized everything, Gary. We're going to be heavily incentivized to want everything to be on the blockchain, and especially the big companies. Well, hey there, Deborah. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning there, Christina. Yes, an important one. Please do remember that the content in this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes and is not intended to provide financial advice. Please consult with a financial professional before making investment decisions. Thank you, Kukla, for making certain I get that one. Hey, good morning there, Jackie. Welcome. All right, Jackie Shaver Zester, do I need to change cold storage from Nano S to their new Nano? Jackie, I know that some folks have been worried about this one. It depends on what you want to do with your ledger. If your ledger is nothing more than a very secure storage spot for your cryptocurrency, you do not need to be worried about updating. If you intend on utilizing the applications inside of Ledger Live, and so let's go on over here. I'll get Ledger Live pulled up on my other screen so I can show you what I mean in regards to that one. But I'm assuming that, Jackie, you have the Nano S, not the Nano S Plus. The Nano S Plus has access to these applications already. The Nano S is the oldest of all ledgers. It's really the most bare bones of all ledgers, but that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it. What it just can't do is it's not able to interact with these applications. And so when it comes to things like, being able to swap directly from your ledger via, say, 1inch, an application that allows a decentralized exchange application, things of this nature, they are not going to be available for you. But your wallet will still work. You will still be able to receive crypto and send crypto. And so if you're just planning on using your cold wallet as a cold wallet, It is nothing more than a secure location to hold access to your crypto. You don't need to be worried about it, Jackie. You really don't. And that's really where it kind of comes down to. It's what you plan on using your ledger for. If you're just using it for storage, I wouldn't worry about it. I wouldn't worry about it at all. I would just keep it right where it's at. You have, say, a Coinbase account set up. So if you ever do want to sell, you want to take money out, or you want to add more money to your wallet, you just do it on Coinbase, no problem. And so that would be where it kind of comes down to, Jackie. I would have some follow-up questions, essentially, to see whether you do need to update or not. If it's nothing more than cold storage, it's nothing to worry about. Good morning there, Fred. Welcome. Kukla, we need a soundtrack. Definitely. Kukla, Zester, did you receive the tie-dye shirt? I need to go up and look at Pops' house. And so as soon as I go up and look at Pops', I imagine I'll be able to pick that one up. Dwayne Dyer, good morning, Zester. Can you explain smart contracts and how it fits in the crypto world? Dwayne, that is a very in-depth topic, but also a very important one. Smart contracts are, let's just go ahead and start essentially at the beginning. Smart contracts were primarily available on and are now spreading out to all the other blockchains, but smart contracts were a major part of the Ethereum blockchain. And what a smart contract essentially is it is code that is set up for a specific duty. The reason that it's typically called a contract is because that was how some of the first usages of this were, where essentially what I could set up is I could set up an ecosystem with rules that people can then interact with. The rules are set in stone. And so, Dwayne, an idea of what a smart contract could potentially be would be, say, a staking protocol. That staking protocol is run entirely by the smart contract. It's not run by people. The smart contract is set up with a parameter or a set of rules in which it will operate on. And so it allows for us to interact and us to have, say, like a typical contract between two people or between thousands of people, which would typically require, say, a lawyer, a bank, attorneys, et cetera, et cetera. It allows for that to be managed and operated by the code. And I know that that's probably not making this any simpler in the slightest in terms of being able to understand it. But the easiest way is to imagine a smart contract as a contract in the same idea. And so when I go to sell a house, there's going to be a contract. And then the buyer and the seller are going to agree to the contract. We're going to have a notary. We're going to have a realtor. We're probably going to have some lawyers that are a part of it. And they're all going to be a part of this agreement. But in all honesty, Dwayne, you and I are the ones who are actually coming to an agreement. I'm selling a house and you're buying. What a smart contract does is it allows for you and me, Dwayne, to go through and actually sell that house. The smart contract acts as the notary and the attorney and et cetera, et cetera. It acts as all of those third parties because it has a clear set of rules and parameters that are run by a decentralized application in most situations. And so that's just kind of the easiest way, I think, to look at it, Dwayne. But that's really not giving it a fair shake or a fair definition. That's just the easiest way to kind of imagine what a smart contract is doing. It's a set of rules. It provides a specific service, and you and I and everyone else, or just specifically, if it's like a private smart contract, are capable of interacting with it. And so it could be used for something like selling a house. It could be used for something like setting up staking, or it could be used in terms of a variety of different applications. And so, Dwayne, the smart contract, the term itself is, I don't know. I think it's almost like it kind of constrains the imagination. The smart contract technology and its utilization is something that can be used for all kinds of different things. When you go and we're going to talk about this in a little bit. When you go to say utilize the XRP sidechain, and you want to take XRP that's on the XRP ledger, and you want to put a tokenized version of XRP on the Ethereum blockchain, you're going to interact with a smart contract. You're going to say, hey, smart contract, here is 100 XRP. And here's the wallet that I want you to put 100 wrapped XRP into. And so I want the tokenized version of XRP on the Ethereum blockchain. This allows for interoperability, access to new liquidity, access to all kinds of new decentralized applications. Super cool, super, super valuable. And that's what I want to do. And so I'm going to go to the smart contract and I'm going to say, here's my 100 XRP. And then the smart contract is going to say, hey, here are the rules. You gave me 100 XRP on the XRP ledger. I'm going to give you 100 XRP on the Ethereum blockchain. And the smart contract handles it all. The smart contract is handling what previously would have been done by people, but it's now capable of doing it itself. And that would just be another use or application of a smart contract. And so that it's going to be something you're going to get very used to interacting with in the coming decades. And I think that it's really going to become a little bit better defined as we actually start to see more of what the technology is used for. Right now, it's a decentralized or autonomous set of code that interacts without a third-party influence or without any kind of third-party verification. It is the third-party verifier. And smart contracts have been very, very successful so far, Dwayne. We have had some fairly infamous situations where certain smart contracts have been tricked. But otherwise, the very simple ones are something that have already been tried, true, tested at this point in time. Fred, have a question. Back in March, Trump recommended crypto that we might buy and hold. Your opinion? Have a small amount only. Well, Fred, Trump has talked about the different cryptocurrencies that his companies or that he thinks the strategic reserve could potentially hold. But Trump has not really gone too out there in terms of making any type of bold predictions. Really, Trump has only put his weight and backing behind Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP to a degree, but really Bitcoin and Ethereum have been the cryptocurrencies that Trump himself and the Trump family have really put the most behind. Now, what I would say, Fred, and I do always recommend to anyone who will give me the time, that diversification is extremely important, and that there are going to be a variety of winners in this crypto race, and there are a variety of different sectors. Cryptocurrency is blockchain technology. Blockchain technology is really what you are buying into when you purchase cryptocurrencies. What it comes down to is you're funding the development of blockchain technology, and blockchain technology is going to be used for far more than just currency. Blockchain technology is going to be used for blockchain voting systems. It's going to be utilized for proof of origin style chains where we can prove where a product came from, or we can prove where our food came from. It's going to be used for the protection of medical data. It's going to be utilized for the protection and encryption of files in terms of privacy. It's going to be utilized for tokenizing cars, tokenizing houses, tokenizing gold, tokenizing assets, tokenizing stocks, tokenizing literally everything. And so when we think about crypto and we think about blockchain, we need to remember to not have any form of tunnel vision going on. Ultimately, say you're a really big XRP fan. I'm a big XRP fan. Well, XRP is focused on real world asset tokenization. That market is going to be huge, trillions and trillions of dollars in the coming years. What XRP is not doing is planning on in any way enabling, say, a blockchain voting system or developing a blockchain security system for medical data. They're not doing that. And ultimately, a company is going to do that. It's going to be operating in an entirely different sector, and it's going to be valuable. And so I do think, Fred, that something that's important for everyone is to to be a little open-minded and a little and to be thinking kind of with a little bit of a futurist mindset about the applications of blockchain technology. Ultimately, we're not going to have just one winner. It's not going to happen. XRP is not going to be the only crypto or the only blockchain company tokenizing gold and silver. They won't be. There will be a variety of them. And in that regard, there's going to be more than just one winner, I guess is what I'm saying. And so, Fred, I would definitely do some research and look around at the other projects out there if you are interested in diversifying. But what the important thing is to keep in mind and a thought towards what is going to be valuable in the future. Which companies are actually profitable? Do they have a good business model? And I always point to Chainlink. Whenever I say anything about this, I use Chainlink as the example. Chainlink is a company that's profitable. Chainlink is developing technology and partnering with massive companies to build the future in terms of their technology and sector. They just partnered with MasterCard to bring over 3 billion users access to cryptocurrency. Those are the type of companies and projects that I think people need to be keeping an eye on. And of course, not in any way investment advice in the slightest. Not at all. All right. Jackie Schaefer, thank you. Is it easy to change out? And do you use Coinbase mostly to trade? Jackie, it's very easy to trade to a new ledger device. And so if at any point you do have a situation where you need to move to a new ledger, all you do is take your 24 words. When you set up that new ledger, you say, I would like to import an existing wallet instead of create a new one. You put in your 24 words and bada bing, bada boom, your ledger wallet is now accessible on a brand new device. And do I use Coinbase mostly to trade? Jackie, I do. In the past, it was different when there were other options. But nowadays, if I'm bringing money into cryptocurrency, I go through Coinbase. If I'm bringing money out of cryptocurrency, I go through Coinbase. And so what Coinbase does for me, Jackie, is it provides me with an on-ramp and an off-ramp. I can buy crypto with just a debit card. I can do that. But what I can't do is I can't withdraw crypto to my debit card. I can't go to my Ledger wallet and I can't access that money in order to pay my power bill. And so what I use Coinbase for is that. It is that ability to on-ramp and off-ramp from fiat, from waving the wrong one, from crypto to fiat. And I don't have my wallet sitting in front of me like I normally do as a visual representation of fiat. But that's where I use it, Jackie. And you could use Gemini or Kraken or a variety of different exchanges to do the exact same, to serve the exact purpose. But that's what I use it for. On-ramp, off-ramp. As soon as I have my crypto, I get it onto my hardware wallet. As soon as I want to withdraw my money, I go to Coinbase, I sell on Coinbase, I direct it to my bank account. I have access to my money within, sometimes a couple hours, sometimes a couple of days. Really just depends on how fast the fiat system's deciding to work that day. Gary 7, are Tangam wallets okay? I have heard great things about Tangam wallets, Gary, and a lot of folks have them. I see absolutely no issue with it. It really comes down to just following the rules. No matter what wallet you have, follow the rules. If you have your hardware wallet, remember you need to have your 24 words somewhere safe, somewhere written down, probably more than one copy of it. Don't share those words, etc., Gary. And so, yeah, I would not be worried. I would not be worried. All right. Gary Green, how will a tokenized stock be represented? Ethereum, XRP, or something else? Let's actually go over and I can show you how Ondo Finance is currently doing it. And so Ondo Finance actually just recently partnered with XRP. We covered this one probably about a month or so ago, but we hadn't gone back to it. And Gary, this would just be the perfect time to come over to Ondo and kind of show you how they're doing it, because Ondo has already tokenized stocks. And so right now, Ondo has tokenized US treasuries and dollars. and you're able to earn a return by holding these assets. What they've also done is they have tokenized Tesla, Visa. They have tokenized stocks. Now, currently, because of the rules, these are not available in the United States, but it's already been done. The technology is already there. And so in this case, you would see that for a tokenized Visa stock on the Ondo Finance network, it would be on Visa, on Tesla, ON Visa, ON Tesla. And you're going to see similar deals here, Gary, where there will be tokenized version stocks on essentially all the blockchains. And they will be represented by something of that nature. It'll be on the Ethereum blockchain, and maybe some company will go out on the Ethereum blockchain and they'll tokenize Tesla stock, and they'll say that it's, X Tesla. It's a representation of one share of Tesla stock. And so, Gary, we're going to see that one kind of jump all over the place. We are, Gary. We're going to see tokenized stocks be on all the blockchains, but we can already see here that, Ondo Finance has already done it. They're already exchanging and operating in forms of tokenized stock shares, as well as tokenized treasury funds. And that's why it was so exciting when XRP Ledger actually partnered with Ondo Finance to bring tokenized treasuries to the XRP Ledger. And so now you're actually capable of holding tokenized US treasuries on the XRP Ledger. And that was compliments of Ondo Finance. And I imagine in the future, you're going to be able to hold very soon, probably tokenized shares of stocks on the XRP Ledger. Hoof Crab, how is the information attached to a token on smart contracts? And so, all right, when you deploy a smart contract, and so it could be a token, it could be, say, a token on the Ethereum blockchain. That's a smart contract. And so I could deploy a smart contract that was for any random token. I could make up a token. I could say my token it's the Crazy Cryptonaut token. And I would then say, hey, the Crazy Cryptonaut token is going to have this token symbol. It's going to have these rules. It's going to have this many tokens in supply. And all of those rules are set out at the very beginning, Hoof Crab. All of those rules are set out at the very beginning. And so when I deploy that smart contract, all of the rules are set in stone, or they're not, depending on whether I set it to be something that I could change after it was deployed or not. And so let's use an example, Hoof Crab, of say I deployed a smart contract that could not be changed. That it can't. Most tokens that are successful can't be changed because people are worried that they'll change it and steal all the money or something like that, or change it and break it, whatever. But so, Hoof Crab, when I set out that smart contract and I launched my token called Crazy Cryptonaut token, there's a billion tokens. And that's it. There's a billion tokens, and it's deployed. Its name is Crazy Cryptonaut token, and its token symbol is CCT, Crazy Cryptonaut token. Those rules are set in stone. And so, Hoof Crab, once I have deployed that smart contract, those tokens are always going to have that information tied to them. If I send you a token from that deployment, I send you some Crazy Cryptonaut token, it's going to have all the information that I put in when I deployed it onto the blockchain. And so in that situation, Hoof Crab, it is just directly attached. That token was created by a smart contract, and that smart contract was deployed with a certain set of rules. And it's going to follow those rules. And you actually, as an outside user, are going to be able to look at the smart contract and see what the rules are before you choose to participate, aka before you choose to buy the tokens. I hope that one helped a little bit, Hoof Crab. I'm not certain if maybe I answered that question, answered the wrong question there or not. Gary7, does Iran have any crypto? If so, what will happen with it now? Iran actually does have crypto, and Iranians are pretty crypto savvy, in all honesty, because Iran actually had to shut down crypto exchanges during all of the uproar because, well, their citizens were taking their money and they were dumping it all into crypto because they were afraid about the Iranian government potentially falling or any major disruption to the Iranian economy. They were moving their money over to crypto. Actually, during this whole thing, an Israeli group hacked an Iranian cryptocurrency exchange and stole like $90 million. And so Iran does have crypto. The Iranian people happen to have a good bit of crypto. And Gary, this is one of those things that's both the blessing of cryptocurrency and the curse of cryptocurrency is that, well, no one can stop the Iranians from being able to access crypto, from being able to potentially trade in crypto. But we will be able to see it. And so it is transparent. It is something that we'll be able to look at. And so, Gary, what I'm imagining is that pretty much anybody in Iran who has large crypto or any government crypto, well, their wallet is going to be flagged. And what that means is once their wallets are flagged, whenever they send crypto somewhere else, it's going to track it and it's going to be watching to see where the money goes. So, Gary 7, that's what I would imagine is probably already occurring to Iranian crypto, is that it has been flagged as a suspicious wallet. And that means that it is being constantly watched and supervised. That just means that, Gary, if Iran tried to, say, launder some money through a Swiss bank, well, we would be able to see it happen. The U.S. government's going to immediately call that bank in Switzerland, and they're going to say, hey, we noticed you just got $100 million worth of Bitcoin from an Iranian wallet. We have a problem. And that's what's going to essentially start to occur. We're going to be massively tracking the crypto from countries like Iran. North Korea, same idea. We are constantly tracking their cryptocurrency wallets. The blockchain allows us to watch and keep an eye on what they're up to. Pamela Flaccid. So how will a person get their physical silver or gold tokenized that they hold now? Pamela, well, please keep in mind that when I go about explaining some of these things, I am explaining things that are going to be happening in the future. I can only use kind of the small amounts of real world examples that we have happening right now. We know that gold and silver are being tokenized and are going to continue to be tokenized in the coming years. We know every major financial service company has said it. We know all the companies are doing it. We know that the gold and silver is flowing into these reserves. But Pamela, essentially what's going to happen, and there could be multiple ways that this occurs. This is just one way that it's already happening. And so right now there's Pax Gold. Pax Gold sells or offers tokenized gold ounces on the blockchain. Matter of fact, let me go ahead and just show you Pax Gold. And so that's what Pax Gold does. And so how does Pax Gold do this? Pax Gold has a market cap of $932 million. And each gold ounce is represented by one Pax Gold token or coin. Token in this situation. And so what Pax Gold does is an ounce of gold sits inside of a vault. And that ounce of gold is audited by a third party. And so every single, set amount of time, a third party auditor comes to the vault and they count how much gold or silver is in the vault. And they say, okay, right now, Pax Gold claims to have a circulating supply of 278,583 Pax Gold. And so that means there's 278,583 ounces of gold that is tokenized. And so inside of these vaults, there are 278,583 ounces of gold. And so in that way, the gold is sitting inside of a vault. It is being accounted for by a third-party auditor. This is most likely going to be the same way that your gold and silver becomes tokenized. It's going to be sitting inside of a third-party vault. That vault is going to constantly be counted, and it's going to ensure that the amount of tokens on the blockchain equal the amount of gold ounces inside of the bank vault. And in that way, Pamela, you are now going to be able to interact with your gold and silver on the blockchain immediately, instantaneously, or even in fractions of a gold ounce, because your token is actually being 100% backed up by gold and silver inside of a vault. Essentially, imagine it like the gold, like when we actually follow the gold standard. Remember, your dollar was backed by gold. And that was the idea of a gold-backed economy. It's not that you traded gold. You didn't actually go down to the corner store and exchange gold for goods. You exchanged US dollars, which were a representation of the gold that was inside of the vaults. This is the same idea. We've just actually made it now verifiable. It will be 100% verifiable that the gold is actually there. And we can have the currency actually equal exactly the gold ounce instead of having to break it down into dollars or etc. And so, Pamela, that would just be one way that someone would be able to tokenize their physical gold or silver, would be by literally depositing it in to a third-party vault. It would then be tokenized, and you would then be able to go off and use your tokenized gold and silver to, say, earn interest or to go buy something at the store, because you would be able to now buy with a gold ounce. I would now be able to go down and buy, say, a piece of chewing gum. Because of the blockchain and because of the fractionalized nature, I can now just literally buy a chewing gum with gold. Now, my gold is always sitting inside of the vault. It's not moving, but my token, the representation of that gold in the vault, it can go everywhere. It can go all around the world and then come back in literally a matter of seconds. And then if I ever want my gold and silver back, I would go right back and I would say, okay, I want my gold ounce back. And I would give them back that one token. I'd say, here's your representation of my gold ounce back. Now they get that out of circulation. So they burn that token and they give me my gold ounce back. And in that way, I'm able to essentially constantly interact with the system. And so, Pamela, I hope that helps. Please do keep in mind, there are going to be other ways that this is done. That is just an explanation of one way that it's currently being done and how I think it will essentially work out. I think that's the easiest way for them to operate a tokenized gold or silver smart contract. And so that's what I believe is the simplest. We'll see. There's undoubtedly going to be all kinds of other ways that companies and people come up with. Holistic, does the word tag mean the same as memo? Holistic, yes. Yes and no. Yes. The answer essentially is yes. But you'll notice that different blockchains, and so you'll notice that Ethereum and Bitcoin and XRP will use different names for the memo line or the destination tag. But essentially, they mean the same thing, holistic. It's really a matter of ensuring that the crypto goes to the right location. And so this is very important with XRP and XLM and any of the other blockchains that require a destination tag. And so holistic, yes, it does, but they're also, it's really just a term that's used for different blockchains. And so on XRP, I believe it's commonly referred to as a destination tag. Where it is very important, holistic, is whenever you are sending crypto to a centralized exchange, whenever you are sending crypto to a centralized exchange, and that crypto requires destination tags or memos, make certain that you include them. The reason is if I send my XRP to Coinbase and I do not include the memo or destination tag, Coinbase does not know who sent them that XRP. They don't know to credit it to my account. They just received XRP and they're like, whose XRP is this? For all they know, they have no idea. And so it's very important that you include the destination tag or the memo whenever you are sending crypto to a centralized exchange and that crypto blockchain requires it. Now, Ethereum, as an example, you do not need the memo. Everybody has an Ethereum wallet. Your centralized exchange Ethereum wallet, no issue. It's yours. But XRP is different. And so whenever you're sending to a centralized exchange, make certain to double and triple check. Put it in just for fun if you're not certain. Just make certain that you're including, and you'll be able to find that destination tag in the receive section. And so if you were on Coinbase, say, and you wanted to deposit XRP, you would go to receive on Coinbase, and you would then get the wallet address and the destination tag or memo that you would then copy and paste over from whatever wallet it is that you're sending the Coinbase from. And so you get that from the receive section of a centralized exchange for the specific crypto you're talking about. Make certain if you're trying to receive XRP, make certain that you get your XRP wallet address and your XRP destination tag, then go back over to, say, your ledger and send it to that wallet with that destination tag included. And you're never going to have anything to worry about in terms of making certain that your crypto shows up in the right place. That's another one, holistic, where it gets, it's really two words that mean the same thing in terms of application, but they honestly have very different definitions. But in terms of how you use it, it's potato, potato, tomato, tomato. It doesn't matter what you call it. It's just important you know that it's required, and it is required holistic on some blockchains. Dwayne Dyer, best to study which particular crypto usage will be used for and what type of market it will serve will dictate its value. Absolutely, Dwayne. It's far more important to think about this in the same way that you would a corporation. Think about it in the same way that you would a company. You are not going to invest your money in a company that does not make money and does not have a plan to make money. Think about this in the same way with crypto. View them in that same manner. You would not go invest in a restaurant that is a terrible restaurant that isn't going to make money. You wouldn't invest in it, no matter how cool the name was or how cool their mascot is. You wouldn't invest in it because it would be a bad investment. You're investing in a failing company. Think about crypto the same way. You just kind of have to put your future goggles on in crypto in a large way also, where you have to kind of start trying to imagine what these future markets are going to look like. But honestly, we're kind of getting past that phase in crypto. We're starting to no longer live in the maybe world. We're starting to live in kind of a concrete world in terms of what these companies are busy doing. Fred 1, Ethereum is what I have, was told government has XRP. Fred, well, the government currently, most of the governments are currently stockpiling Bitcoin with plans towards Ethereum and XRP in the future. Fred, I mean, with me, I am very diversified. I have Ethereum, I have Bitcoin, I have XRP, I have XLM, I have some XDC, I have Hedera Hashgraph, I have Chainlink, I have, Shiba, I have random, I have a little bit of everything, essentially. With really the only focus being on the ones that I believe are going to succeed in the future. XRP, I believe, is going to succeed in the future. And so I hold my XRP. I very much have a long-term perspective on my holdings. I am not planning on selling them anytime soon unless I have to. All right. Jackie says, thank you. Do you have a beginner's class trading on your website? I do have a lot of very, very old videos. Well, they're not very, very old. But I have a lot of my older videos on the channel. And so you can actually go through and watch some of the videos from the early days. I started very, very, very simple back on those. And so that's one option, Jackie. I am also going to be offering one-on-one training in the very near future as soon as I get approved on that one. And so there will be a few options. But Jackie, I would say first things first on that one. If you go back on the YouTube channel, you can go to some of the very early videos and you'll be able to go through some of the very simple parts and processes. All right. Christina 999. Is there a certain way to take profits without selling your crypto? Christina, now there are certain ways, I suppose. You could You could stake your crypto, and then you could sell the rewards from your staking. But more so, what is typically recommended, Christina, is just taking small amounts of profit, but not selling everything. A lot of folks, if you're planning on holding it for the long term, I've always found that I feel a whole lot better once I've taken my principal investment out. And so I tend to do that. If I have held a cryptocurrency and it has appreciated substantially, then I will usually sell to retrieve my principal out. That way, everything is playing with the house's money. But Christina, I think what you're talking about here, or what you're thinking about, is staking. Depending on which crypto you hold, it is easier to stake or not stake. Certain cryptocurrencies aren't meant to be staked, in which case you can't really earn a return on them that way. Other cryptos are designed to be staked. Some great examples here, Christina, would be, say, Solana or Ethereum. You can actually take your Solana or your Ethereum and you can stake them as validators on the Ethereum or Solana blockchain. You will then be paid a return in Ethereum or in Solana for having done so. And so, Christina, staking your cryptocurrencies, whether that's in proof of stake blockchains, or whether that's providing liquidity or providing loans, that would be a way that you could start to actually earn some income without selling your crypto. And so, Christina, that would be where I would look towards. Some very easy options are Coinbase. On Coinbase, you can stake your Ethereum or your Solana, and you can earn a return without ever having to leave Coinbase. You just tell Coinbase, hey, I'm staking this crypto. Coinbase does all the work. Coinbase does take some of the money you would have earned for your staking as essentially, cost of doing business, but you get the rest. And so there are interest or APRs on Coinbase, at 10%, where you could stake your crypto with them, and you could technically not lose any of your actual principal crypto, but you could then sell your staking rewards. And in that way, you could be technically taking a profit without selling your initial crypto. Holistic. When the wallet address and tag are displayed at the same time, how do you copy both? If you copy the first, would then allow you to go back to the same page to copy the tag. Holistic. And so what I tend to do is, and I'll just, you use over here as an example. And so I'll log into my software wallet. And so here's my software wallet. And so say I was trying to send to my ledger, or I was trying to send off from my ledger. What I would do is I would just have these two pages up. And so look, I've got my MetaMask wallet right here where I can send crypto. And so say I wanted to, send crypto to this account. I wanted to send from BFED6 to to wherever. I would come over to my ledger. I would go to accounts, and I would go to my Ethereum account, and I would click that I would like to receive. And so I would go receive, and it would then give me my wallet address and my memo if this were XRP. MetaMask just doesn't have an XRP wallet, so I'm just using the one that I have in front of me as an example here, Holistic. But I would copy and paste the wallet address back over here, and then I would come back and I would copy the memo address, and then I would come back over here and I'd paste it. And so you just have to go back and forth twice, Holistic, but it does not go away. You just go over, you copy the first one, you paste it, you come back over, you copy the destination tag, you go back over, you paste it. All right. Pamela Flaccid, bought a treasure and have been terrified to set up and lose access to any funds. I guess I'm just being a chicken and afraid we'll set it up wrong. Pamela, the best way to go about it is to just go ahead, set up your treasure. There are lots of little videos to walk you through setting it up, and then send a very small amount of crypto to it. And so, Pamela, if your crypto is currently in Coinbase or Uphold or Lobster, wherever it is, once you set up your Trezor, just send a very, very small amount. Send like $1 worth over to your Trezor and make certain that it shows up. And in that way, you can set up your new Trezor. You can ensure that it works without risking that you lose access to any of your funds or to any of your funds beyond that dollar. And so I highly recommend sending out test transactions. That's what I tend to call them. I call them tests. And I will send out a test transaction to any new wallet that I create. I send that test transaction. I verify that everything arrived, everything's working. And then I go through and actually send the larger amount or how much I was planning on. That just makes it'll make you feel a lot safer. It'll make me feel a lot safer because I know the questions and how to help when things like that go on. It'll make everything a lot better. Fred 1, XRP was by government confiscation. I've heard a lot of rumors on that one, Fred. And I do think that the government is working with XRP, the ledger, XRP or Ripple Labs. They are working with the company. The government has talked about holding or utilizing the XRP ledger for things. But ultimately, I do not think that there's going to be a massive buyout of XRP by the government, as some have hypothesized. The government is most likely going to hold a variety of different cryptocurrencies in the strategic reserve, with Bitcoin probably being the lion's share of that one, at least for the foreseeable future. As you start to stretch out this time scale and you start to look 10 years in the future, Fred, who knows? I mean, who knows? Maybe XRP at that point is the dominant cryptocurrency held by the U.S. government or used by the U.S. government. Maybe it's the dominant cryptocurrency on the planet. That in the short term, though, Fred, I'm not worried about my XRP being confiscated by the government or being bought by the government. I think that my XRP is going to start accelerating in value because of fundamental changes to the value proposition that they offer as a tool. And so, as a matter of fact, it's for these reasons that I believe XRP Ledger and XRP is going to be more valuable in the future. The XRP Ledger payment uses have surged 430% in 2 years. It gains ground in decentralized finance and the tokenization of real-world assets. And so, XRP Ledger is entering a new growth phase, combining its legacy as a fast and efficient payment network with growing traction in DeFi and tokenization. Now, this is what I'm excited about. These are the things that I believe are going to make XRP more valuable going into the future. It'll be the tokenization of real-world assets. It'll be the implementation of more use cases for my XRP. That is what gets me excited. And in terms of that, we actually have some XRP news for the day. Ripple did go through and lock 400 million tokens in escrow. And we got another very, very major development and major news for the day. The official launch of the XRP Ledger EVM sidechain on the main net has occurred, bringing Ethereum smart contract compatibility, I should say, to the XRP Ledger. This is absolutely huge news. This is going to allow for Ethereum smart contract utilization, which Ethereum smart contracts are the most advanced, possibly only being really competed with by Solana. But Ethereum also has the vast majority of the money locked on it. It's wrapped Bitcoin, it's Ethereum, it's all the different Ethereum tokens, it's all of these decentralized platforms that operate on EVM blockchains. This is huge news. This now makes it to where XRP, which was very limited by their technology, now has access to the most advanced smart contract blockchain on the planet, which is going to allow for us as XRP holders to start doing all kinds of things with our XRP, like staking and earning passive income returns from it. And so this is extremely exciting news. And these are the things that I focus on when it comes to crypto. I don't focus on the possibility that someday it's going to be bought up. I focus on the fundamental values it's providing, because ultimately, if at some point it did become the dominant crypto on the planet, it's going to become the dominant crypto because of this. It's going to become dominant because, well, it's the best. And that's what I get excited about. And that's what I follow along with in terms of XRP. Gary Green, it is going to be much easier for people to invest in companies and at fractional prices. Absolutely. That's where tokenized stocks are going to allow for people to, yes, own possibly percentages of a share. And so you wouldn't need to be buying a whole share. You could own a percentage of one, compliments of the tokenization process. And yes, you could immediately interact and exchange. And here's the kicker, Gary, you're going to be able to do it 24/7. No more stock market that can be closed or that closes. It's only open from, 8 to 5 Eastern Standard Time. No more. The tokenization of shares and the tokenization of stocks will allow for 24/7 liquidity and access to sell or buy or trade your different stocks. And so, yes, Gary, it is. Robbie Bucks, Esther, do you feel that RLUSD and XRP will be tied to the Treasury? I think that RLUSD as a stablecoin is going to be very important, because Ripple is going to back up their RLUSD with US Treasury bonds. And so any stablecoin is going to have a direct effect on the US economy, because it's going to provide a stabilizing factor, because it's going to lock up a lot of US dollars. But do I believe that we are going to hold these tokens as a country, or hold these cryptos as a country? I do think that the US government will probably hold some XRP, and undoubtedly the government will interact and use RLUSD because it's a stablecoin of the US dollar. And so, Robbie, I do think that we will see the US government holding XRP in the future, in the same way that the US government is planning on holding Bitcoin. We're going to see them holding XRP as a strategic reserve. Fred, will each country possibly deal with their own crypto of exchanges of funds? Fred, we could see many countries actually launch their own digital or cryptocurrency. We could also see, like we've seen in the past couple of weeks, like in Bolivia. In Bolivia, they've started placing the prices of goods in supermarkets in USDT, Tether. And so we could also see certain countries, Fred, that are just going to say, hey, why bother? We're just going to utilize a US-backed stablecoin, and we're not going to even bother with our own currency. And in that way, governments could save a lot of money and also benefit from the stability of the US economy. And so, Fred, I think we could see certain countries are going to launch their own. Other countries may choose to just partner up with somebody else and use their stablecoin as a means of exchange. Fred, so crypto and currency will now be gold or silver backed. Some will and some won't. And so, Fred, there's going to be so much variety and diversity in the crypto. There will be cryptos that are backed by gold and silver. There will be cryptos that are a representation of ownership of a share in that company, in which case they're not backed by gold and silver. They're backed by a share of ownership. And so there will be other cryptos that are not going to be backed by jack squat. They're not going to be backed by anything. Look at meme coins of today. What is Shiba Inu backed by? Absolutely nothing. But people became millionaires by owning it, right? Is it backed by anything? No. It's a meme. And its value is cultural. And in that regard, it's not going to be backed by gold or silver or backed by ownership. And I don't think that's going to be a major part going into the future. I think meme coins are going to slowly go the way of the dodo. But you are going to see a lot of diversity in the market, Fred. There are going to be cryptos that are backed by gold. There'll be cryptos that are backed by silver. There'll be cryptos that are possibly backed by real estate. There'll be cryptos that are possibly backed by debt, that invest in debt and tokenized debt. There's going to be a lot more variety going on out there, Fred. But I do think we're at the time where cryptos are going to start to be backed by real world assets. They're going to start to be backed by tangible things. That is definitely happening. We're going to see that occur. Okay, Savvy, blockchain question. All governments see all trades, or do regular folks see all trades as well? I'm having a brain fog day. Savvy, okay, so here we go. There's going to be, essentially, yes, everything out there is trackable. But when you do a trade on a centralized exchange, the money never moved. And so when I trade, say, Ethereum on Coinbase, the government's going to have to go to Coinbase to find out what I did. Now, when I trade or I send crypto from my wallet here to, say, my MetaMask wallet on the computer, when I do that, the blockchain is public and transparent. When I send Ethereum from here to right over here on the computer screen, when I send it to this wallet, the government can see that. I can see it. You can see it. The government, everybody can see it. And so in that regard, yes, they're going to be able to see the flow of cryptocurrency everywhere. It is not easy to do, but they will be able to do it. And it's really not that hard, but it kind of is also. It's just so much data to parse through. ComSense staking. On my Coinbase, it has a warning stating that staking is not available in Wisconsin. Is it only available in certain states? Commence, yes. Certain states have put forth state laws on this one. And so federally, it's perfectly legal. State, possibly not. And so for those that do live in different states that don't allow for certain staking, you're going to have a hard time interacting with staking options on centralized exchanges. ComSense, what I would say, and I wouldn't recommend it, but you could go off and you could stake on decentralized exchanges, and they don't know where you live. But these centralized exchanges are going to be forced by state governments, state lawmakers, to follow those rules for residents of the state. And so ComSense in Wisconsin, it seems like Coinbase is not allowed to provide staking. I think that this is going to change in the near future and get a lot easier. So I would say ComSense, I don't think that's going to stay the way. I think we're going to end up getting some federal framework that's going to make it simpler. But we're always going to have silly state governments doing silly things in terms of the law. So, all right. Good Lord. I had not realized how fast the time was flying, guys. Let me go through a little bit of our news stories for the day before I let everyone get on with their Trump day, and I get back to getting some other stuff done around the house and on the work schedule. But let's look at our news articles real quick and get through them so that everybody knows what's going on in the crypto world at the moment. Bitcoin squeezes shorts and 108K spike as U.S. jobs drop most in 2 years. So, yes, U.S. job markets are doing, well, not great. And, they're going to keep doing poorly, compliments of artificial intelligence. But that's a whole story, and that's a whole discussion for another day. So I'm not surprised to see that job hirings are dropping in the slightest. But, well, it was great news for cryptocurrency because most likely it's going to result in an interest rate cut, and that makes crypto happy. And so crypto has been booming ever since the job data came out. It was already kind of booming before then. It was already headed in the right direction. But what ended up occurring is that we saw a massive amount of liquidations going in the other direction. Remember when we talked about leverage trading? And I say that people got liquidated. Well, typically, what we've talked about is we've talked about long traders who got liquidated. People that were betting that the price of Bitcoin was going to keep going up. Well, what happened here was a bunch of people were betting that the price was going to go down. They were shorting the market. Shorts or longs. Short is a leveraged trade that is gambling on the fact that the price is going to go down. Well, needless to say, that was not a wise gamble over the past few days. And so there were massive amounts of liquidations of short positions And that does mean that we are probably looking at a little bit of an opportunity for Bitcoin to break out and continue to rise in price, currently sitting at $109,239, up 2.8% over the past 24 hours. We do see some analysts now saying that this might be the opportunity, that July may be the month where Bitcoin achieves a new all-time high. I try to avoid listening to the talking heads and analysts because they're kind of like the weatherman. For some reason, they get to be wrong 90% of the time, and they get to keep their jobs. And so, much like meteorologists, that's kind of how I view many of these analysts. But, well, there are a lot of them, and it does make sense at this point in time. We could see a new all-time high for Bitcoin in the month of July after we saw such a massive amount of liquidations of short positions. It really has cleared out the books because, well, those short positions had to buy Bitcoin in order to actually fulfill their gamble. And so that drove the price up, and it broke through a lot of resistance. All right, Trump's family's American Bitcoin mining company readies to go public with updated SEC S-4 filing. Trump-backed American Bitcoin Corp to merge with Griffin, aiming for NASDAQ listing by 2025. The Trump family is going all in. The Trump family, they have bought decentralized exchanges. They have bought centralized exchanges. They are now starting a mining company for actually mining cryptocurrency, and they're planning on taking that company public. They are planning on taking that company public. And so we'll be keeping an eye on this one. Actually, I may even be convinced that I need to actually own a little bit of this one. But it is American Bitcoin is expected to trade on NASDAQ under the ticker symbol ABTC. And they are viewing or, well, targeting as early as the third quarter of 2025. I know that the expectation is that they plan on being public before the end of the year. And so targeting the end of the third quarter. And our next one, here we go. Here is why we're going to be seeing so much of a drive towards people wanting to hold crypto. Pakistan intends to deploy their Bitcoin reserve in DeFi in order to earn a yield. And so what's going to occur is that you're going to be able to hold cryptos, hold Bitcoin in reserve, but you're also going to be able to earn a yield. And so this is why you're going to see everybody. You're going to see this in tokenized stocks. You're going to see this in crypto reserves. Everybody's going to want to be tokenized. Everybody's going to want to be on a blockchain because they're going to be able to leverage their money. They're going to be able to leverage their cryptos in order to earn yields. And so Pakistan, I'm certain we will hear from many, many, many other countries very similar ideas, maybe them using it to provide all kinds of different services. All right, and for our last article of the day, because I see we've been an hour and 8 minutes, guys. I was having too much fun answering questions. I let the time run away. The midnight token release. Remember, it's happening this month. It has not happened yet. And so I just wanted to give everyone the heads up. You are not able to go in as an XRP holder and claim midnight tokens for free yet, but it is expected to start at some point this month. And so I will be keeping everyone up to date on that. As soon as I see it occur, I'm going to go in and start claiming my midnight tokens and making videos so that everybody else can do it as well if they qualify. So it hasn't happened yet. I just wanted everyone to have an update on that front, but it should be very, very soon. Right now, it's saying to be decided, but it is also saying in the month of July. And so we're going to find out very, very soon, I'm certain. It'll probably be quite the surprise on the day that it does occur. Probably just going to have to sit here and refresh once a day in order to keep track of it. But I will let everyone know the second that it does happen. So with all of that said, thank you guys so much for joining this morning. I hope everyone has an amazing, amazing Trump day. And I will, of course, be back at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Whiskey and Wisdom on the original Mark Z channel if anybody would like to join. If not, well, I will not be here for the 4th. And so just a heads up ahead of time, unless something crazy happens, I am going to be making certain to celebrate the greatest country on the planet this Friday. And I hope that everyone else does that as well. And so if something crazy happens and we need the information out there, then I will, of course, jump on and do the stream on Friday. But short of that, I hope that everyone is out there enjoying and celebrating the greatest country that has ever existed on God's green earth. And so, love you guys so much. See you very soon. Join me over on Whiskey and Wisdom this evening. Love you all. Bye-bye.